A priest cannot take Elliot's or super loaf and say, hey man, leo hakuna hosts, acha tutumie tu hii super loaf juu mazee watu washafika mass and Now, in the letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians, he speaks about the cup of blessing which we bless. And many biblical experts have gone into this to try and understand, okay, what exactly do we mean when we speak about the cup of blessing? And they have identified it with precisely one of those 4 cups of wine that they had to take was called the cup of blessing, precisely. So it would seem that the cup that Jesus took and gave to his apostles and said, this is my blood, was the 3rd cup. It wasn't the very first one, it wasn't the second one, it was the 3rd cup, like just as they were beginning the 3rd course, you could say, quote unquote, of the meal, right? This is the one that Jesus took and gave to his disciples and said, take and drink, this is my blood. Now, previous to that, he had already taken unleavened bread and he had given it to his apostles and he had told them, take and eat, this is my body, all right? And this essentially is the core of the institution of the Eucharist. Where did it begin? It began with Jesus taking unleavened bread, breaking it, giving it to his apostles, telling, take and eat, this is my body, and taking that cup of grapefruit wine and giving it to his apostles and saying, take and drink. Okay? Now, it is good to note that even today, the way the church celebrates the Eucharist, she has to do the exact same thing. She has to take unleavened bread. A priest cannot take Elliot's or super loaf and say, hey man, leo hakuna hosts, acha tutumie tu hii super loaf juu mazee watu washafika mass and ningori bana. And then he says, this is my body. The miracle will not happen. Why? Because Jesus took unleavened bread. It has to be unleavened bread, okay? Similarly speaking, the priest has to use grapefruit wine. If he speaks the word, this is my blood over, tuseme Gilbey's, kulikuwa kamzinga fulani kalibaki kutoka jana usiku, and then it's like, man, people want to know the difference, the miracle will not happen. They have to use what Jesus himself used, and they have to speak the words that Jesus himself spoke. And I think here I have to kind of thank very many of our listeners and parishioners who sometimes with priests who get a bit carried away are able to kind of correct them and say, you cannot change the words that Jesus spoke. Especially for the institution of the Eucharist, those key words, this is my body. All right, this is my blood, kind of thing. But this is the essence of how the institution happened. This is what we have received from the apostles or 2,000 years ago about how the Eucharist was instituted. That Jesus took those things and he spoke those specific words, and those have been the actions and the words that have been preserved for us today. And then he finished with those words of, do this in memory of me. Now, you ask yourself, if you are one of the apostles sitting there and you got a WhatsApp message, so ulikuwa kwa simu when Jesus was saying these things, and then you ask the apostle next to you, hey, Philip bana, umse amesemaje? What will Philip tell you? Philip will tell you, no, Jesus, he took that bread over there, and then he broke it, and then he said, take and eat, this is my body. And then he did the same with the wine. So when he's saying, do this in memory of me, what does he mean? He means, do exactly what I did. What did I do? I took bread and I broke it and I said the words, this is my body. And then I took wine and I gave it and I said, this is my blood. So it's not a question of, because I have very many good Protestant friends, fantastic fellows, who whenever we are debating this topic, for example, they say, no. When he said, do this in memory of me, they were saying, do this as a way of remembering me, as a way of kind of celebrating an anniversary. The same way we celebrate wedding anniversaries or Father Day is a way of remembering fathers. Jesus said, do this in memory of me as a way of remembering the time we spent together and how we used to hang out, etc., etc. But the church has said, no, it's much more than that. It includes that, But it's much more than that. It's do exactly what I've done. What have I just done? I've performed a miracle. When I say do this, I mean perform the same miracle in my memory.
In my memory. All right.
And that, I would say, is how the Eucharist was instituted.